So just a couple of days ago, we covered well, the delusions, shall we say, of the local Conservatives in Sheffield, assuring us that they were about to go in and sweep away the Labour-run council in Sheffield, and that they were going to come to power, and that they were going to solve all of Sheffield's ills, and that don't worry, the future isn't red, it's bright blue. Don't worry, the Conservatives are on their way to save Sheffield City Council. Of course, as we pointed out in that video, not only do they currently have one councillor in on the Sheffield City Council, their results didn't really do that good. Not only that, the three MPs that they currently have in the Sheffield City region also do not really have that good a chance at a re-election. um, just laying out the facts, guys. But this I have seen is continuing. Because you may remember just what is it must have been a few 2 or 3 months ago now, we covered almost the exact same article coming from Rotherham. Yes, don't worry. Rotherham Tories are about to come and sweep away the bad Labour council in Rotherham and replace it with a Tory-run council. And once again, everything will be bright blue. The future's looking bright, not looking orange, but it's all going to be wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And here's the thing: we've had this yet again, but not from a more northern perspective. This one's from Coventry. So this is like a Midlands seat. And I'm not going to go over it all for you. I'm just going to summarize it because honestly, this is practically word for word of what we have seen in the past coming from other Conservatives. Oh, don't worry. If we were in charge, this wouldn't be happening. And yet, I would love to put to any of those authors of those articles, how do you square away the fact that you've had Rishi Sunak say, I took money from those poor areas and gave it to the more richer areas? That I will tell you now, if I was working with Labour and preparing for their campaign, I will be making sure that that clip gets played 24/7 on loop. I will be prepping every single Labour candidate who's going to go to any hustings to ask those MPs, oh, you gave all this money to this area. Well, why have we got this clip then of Rishi Sunak saying that he took money from, our poor area and gave it to a more rich, more affluent one? Why should the people of this seat trust you to get more money into this seat that is desperately needing investment and income? Why should they trust you? Because I'll tell you now, that is a question that they cannot answer. That is a fascinating question that they just cannot answer. And in fact, there is a quote. So it happens to be in this list, but this guy is going, oh my word, Labour have no power at a national level. And then you look at the local level, they've got all these, quote, records of catastrophe and financial mismanagement. And then here's the other thing, people are reminding him, the second one beneath that, Conservative run councils are no better. To which someone says, change the government. Yes, I'm not really convinced it can be any worse. I've done my share of walks, canvassing, and leafleting, but I cannot defend our party on the doorstep now. The fact that Conservative councils are almost among the mixed of those who are struggling and have struggled probably explains why we do not bang on about this issue. And then someone else here I think the evidence is that councils of all colours are in trouble. They've had to look at trying to diversify their income streams because their funding has been cut and they aren't allowed to raise the council tax to cover the shortfall. This is going to be a huge problem in the next couple of years. I agree. This is something Labour really needs to pay attention to, um, because councils have had their funding stripped to the bone and told do more with less. When you've had a massive increase on things like social care budgets, which councils have ultimately been responsible for, eating away more and more at their budget, they'll go back to the top. And this guy's talking about Coventry potentially also um, going into bankruptcy as well. Talking about, oh well, Birmingham's gone into bankruptcy. Why did Birmingham go into bankruptcy? Whenever we've seen these articles talking about this, never talk about why that happened. It was because Birmingham City Council's budget had been slashed to the bone, just as every other local council and authority had been. And what had happened was all these councils that are now facing, or at least, skirting the edge of bankruptcy, they're praying that they don't get a big financial bill, or that, something bad happens that, cost them a big amount of money. And that's what happened in Birmingham. They had equal pay disputes, which were costing them billions and billions of pounds to pay for. And they were going to the central government saying, we've got this bill, we need to pay for it, but it's going to lead to our bankruptcy. We covered this at the time when we covered that. And in any of these stories that mentions Birmingham or quote how bad quote Labour financial mismanagement is, they don't say why it's bad. It is because of austerity. Local councils have been forced to bear the brunt of austerity. And when you've even got Conservative councils saying, yeah, we need more money, this isn't just a party problem. This is an epidemic problem caused by the current ruling government. And what's funny about this is that this guy says that the Labour Council just cries to central government, give us more money, give us more money, give us more money. What's the first thing this guy recommends for this? So here's the first thing. Firstly, introduce a multi-year financial settlement. A multi-year financial settlement. Your first idea is to inject more money into local councils, something which this guy and the author of this, Gary Ridley, decries of the Labour-led, Coventry Council doing. Now, I agree that there is a lot of trouble going on in local councils throughout the country, and we know that the problem, we've known it for a long time. It's austerity and lack of investment into these poor areas, because the Conservatives have just not delivered on that. They promised it on the last election to level up the rest of the country. Well, Rishi Sunak cut back on HS2, one of the biggest leveling up projects that was out there, gone. Replaced with things that either A, aren't even ready to be built, have been built already, and to be honest, could have been done anyway if Sunak had been bothered to put the money into it. So once again, we have Conservatives of a local board in Coventry saying how great, how wonderful, local Conservatives are. When you've only got one Conservative on the Coventry Council, that's hardly anything to be crowing about. just as it's nothing to be crowing about in Sheffield or in Rotherham, as we've seen before. And yet, another comment below sums this up perfectly. Let me try and find it. Um, yeah, this was the other fun one. Yeah, when I got to the end, I wondered if this was parody. The solutions are apparently a multi-year statements with more money. Well, yes, indeed, we've had 13 years. And what exactly have we done for local government in that time apart from blame them? Yesterday's comments on local authorities from ministers were risible. Someone else, this is replying to what we covered about Sheffield. We had a similar piece about Sheffield yesterday. It's utter tosh. There are conservative run councils which have issues akin to those mentioned here. It is not the party label that makes an administration competent, but rather the people in it. Unfortunately, local politics is even more prone to playground behavior than national politics, and these pompous calls to arms do not help. Um, and bear in mind, those are people who are signed up to comment on this website. So those have to be like conservative people. And even they recognize and realize that it has been 13 years of failure to do nothing for local authorities, to blame them, to make them the scapegoat and bear the brunt of austerity, saying do more with less, while knowing that there are going to be rising costs of the cost of living, of people living longer. I mean, just look at social care budgets now versus 10 years ago in what 2013, when the Conservatives had just come to power at that point. They are a staggering rise in those. And yet, the government has, rather than put more money or try to provide solutions to these problems, has just said, no, we're just going to take this money away from you and, do more with less, guys. And that has been the solution for years. And it is not now just Labour councils who are saying, we are having serious problems. It's conservative councils that are also saying, because you have cut budgets so much, even we are now struggling to try and, solve problems. You're going to blame on us when we eventually go bankrupt. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.